This week in comic books from the lands of DC, we get a great montage of past, present, and future state of DC Comics and its various characters and how they kind of relate. It's interesting, and I definitely want to talk about that. In the land of Marvel, we get a heartwarming tale from Fantastic Four #1 with the why is this a thing ending. We'll talk about it. And of course, in the land of Independence, I got my hands on an ash can, one per store comic, right? The preview deal. And I don't really know who it's from. And it's kind of weird. I've never seen this before, and I definitely want to share it with you, kind of get some feedback. But first, let's do a plug for some coffee. Hey weirdos, do you ever find it hard to get going in the morning? Do you need a swift kick in the butt to get your day started? I find a good cup of coffee helps me supercharge my evil genius ways and motivates my villainy. Coffee Brand Coffee is the perfect start to my dastardly day. They offer multiple roasts and flavors, teas and cocos, while you sit by the fire and watch all your enemies burn. Go to Coffee Brand Coffee today and use promo code POCANJOE and save 10%. Coffee Brand Coffee. No gimmicks, just coffee. What's going on, you wonderful weirdos? Welcome back. It's another week of comic books. New comic books, and we're going to talk about it. But first, I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. Thank you for your sacrifice, your dedication, and all that you did for us, for all of us. Thank you very much. But without further ado, let's jump into some comic books, because I know some of you nerds out there are scratching your heads this week about comic books. So let's talk about it. The New Golden Age. First, horrible title, but it is what it is. Bad grammar doesn't make good titles. Anyway, but this is a great book. This is actually really fun. So as a lot of you know, I'm a Golden Age collector. So it's really cool whenever you get an opportunity where you can kind of mix some of the old school characters from the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze, right? You can kind of do like a little time travel thing with an underlying mystery of why all these Dr. Fates have just got to disappear, right? I really like that. This is smart. And the different interactions. And what you end up finding is, yes, things change over time, but certain things don't, right? Like, the things that it takes to be a hero or a villain don't really change that often. So I found that interesting about this. Again, and if you didn't pick this book up, and you kind of want to get into Golden Age, it's actually kind of funny. In the back here, they give the little character descriptions and bios and everything. It even tells you when their first appearance was and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's something to look at, definitely.
Oh.
I think I have some of these, but now I got to go back and look at them. And then we even got this mysterious character in the back. Then apparently they have a Legion ring, so that's interesting. Who could this mysterious character be that's going around killing everybody? I have suspicion that it's not going to be like a villain story. It's going to be this has to happen because it does the ultimate good, right? Because that would be the big shocker twist, right? Not just somebody has a problem with superheroes. I don't know. But we're definitely going to chase this one down for as long as I can tolerate it. All right, next, Blood Syndicate. This ends season 1. First off, writers, you know I love you, and I'm not picking on you. I'm rooting for you. Can we dump this whole season 1, 2, and 3? You're not writing a show. I get what you're going for there. You kind of want to promote it that way because TV deal, movie deal, huge deal, right? But it's a little on the nose these days. However, with that said, great ending. This is a great ending. I really like this. This thing can stand on its own. We legitimately have a new team in the DC universe now. They are kind of in continuity right now. I hope it gets kind of blended into continuity with a lot of our other superhero stories, because I really find this team interesting. They're a little Teletorian.
My advice? Cut it out with the introspection.
But especially when they beat the bad guy. So Holocaust is defeated. He's trying to take over his city and the world, probably. And of course, he gets defeated by the good guys in this, right? They drop him. But then some of the verbiage is like, this is our town now, and this is us, and only us, and you stay out. You know, Ooh, that's always dangerous thinking because the first thing that happens is when you realize everything it takes to run a city or a town or something like that, you're going to find out real quick that you need those other things, right? So I don't know. And I know the writer's not going that route with it. He's just establishing these characters from here. This is where they're at. So I don't look at it too hard that way. Like they're drawing a hard border or anything like that. At least I hope not. Please don't turn into that. You've done such a great job building this that you don't want to segregate it from the rest of the DC universe because I think a lot of what happens in here can be utilized in other stories. Writers know what I'm talking about right now.
Sorry.
All right, jumping into Marvel this week. We get Fantastic Four. So, heartwarming tale. Thing and Alicia are driving across town. Doesn't really explain to us why in the beginning of the story, but they get to a town that's just kind of stuck in a time loop, right? And it's all because some guy got, magical powers from a nuclear blast, and he's going through a bad breakup, and he always says, if I just had one more chance, or I wish I had one more chance, right? It kind of resets the day for all these poor people in this town. And they try everything they can to kind of deal with this. They threaten, distract them, give them advice, and then come to find out all they really had to do was just listen to the guy. Like the guy's just heartbroken. Just listen to him and give some of your personal experiences from it. Telling somebody what to do, I would not say is the best. Here's how you know a good therapist and somebody that just wants to be a therapist. Good therapists don't tell you what to do. They offer scenarios so you get to your own conclusion of an aha moment. Because aha resonates more with you than just being told what to do. Bad therapists sit there, pull off of their own biases, and tell you to avoid these things and to do this. And what ends up happening is you don't get to live the experience. You're just following orders at that point.
Now, do I sound like a fucking maniac?
So I thought that was a good representation of that in here. Somebody actually sitting down and listening and saying, well, the reality is, right? They made that clear. This woman does not want to be with you. That's the reality. However, it's things like this that help us build better relationships in the future, like my own personal experience, yada, yada, yada. At no point did they oh, get over it, man. Go to the strip club. Get some beers. They didn't do that. Just good advice. Don't do that. Right? And then at the end, we get this horrific scene of where the Baxter building was. And it's missing. Hence the past tense. And so something has happened. Whatever that is. I dumped off the last Fantastic Four story. So I don't know if it's going to be relative to that. I'm not sure. I'm kind of excited. I like a good Fantastic Four story when it's written well. So I'm excited about that. Next, SpiderMan, The Lost Hunt. So this is another weird one. So this is a out of continuity story, I'm assuming, because we're dealing with Peter Parker and Oregon, somewhere out in the Pacific Northwest. Regardless, and we're doing the code. We're doing a PTSD story. I've told you what my feelings are on the PTSD stories and how they're just kind of like the stereotypical type of thing, but this actually was kind of on point. I tried not to make too big of a hardness on it, on the symptoms of PTSD.
The mind is a den of scorpions better left running from, not towards.
But obviously, right, he has them, right? And the best way I can describe this is, and we'll go to the DSM-5 on this one. So why does PTSD happen in these kind of situations? Or if it was converted over to real life, why is this a thing? Well, in most cases, for PTSD, it's not one situation that actually causes PTSD. That's not to say it doesn't happen. It does happen. That's a separate thing. We're going to put that over here. Let's talk about the regular one that we're probably more familiar with. When you live a life of high adrenaline, right? Race cars, crashes, soldiers in combat, firefighters, police officers, whatever the case be. When the adrenaline level is higher, and then you take that away from somebody, you take that adrenaline rush from somebody, and then the need to react instead of think, right? Muscle memory type stuff. Then, yeah, these individuals tend to be more prone to PTSD than other people. Does that make sense?
Try introspection on that, motherfucker.
Now, that is not always the case. There's nothing that's always the case, but that is a good chunk, right, of your PTSD diagnosis out there. So that would make sense, right? Spider-Man in this story lost his powers. He's a regular guy now. He obviously there's that urge to be this exciting, high adrenaline rush, type of action, but the ability's just not there anymore, right? Think of a Vietnam veteran, right? Boom, boom, scary jungle all the time, enemy around the corner, mundane office life, right? So yeah, it makes sense in this case. So I'll accept it. However, I don't think I'm particularly interested in the story as a whole.
Oh shoot, bummer. That stinks.
That sounds bad. Even though I had that great point in it. Sometimes this stories just miss, and it's okay. So next on the list is Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was interesting this week. So Talia and of course Johnny Blaze are teaming up to go across country, and that's fine. We keep getting this snarky, independent, I'll keep working for the FBI as long as they let me do what I want. There's always these hard lines with these kind of one-dimensional characters, and honestly, it's the hard lines that make them one-dimensional. Why work for the FBI? Why not just go do your own thing? Like that. Right? I mean, pay's not that good in the FBI. It's like, unless you're the director, right? Regardless, they're teaming up, and there may be a little bit of, ooh, he likes her, or ooh, she likes him type of thing going on.
Yeah, and they're deeply in love.
Because, of course, they end up kissing at the end. Of course, we see our character Exhaust in here. That's the negative of Ghost Rider at this point, where he's more motorcycle than person. I don't like the design of it, though. It's kind of cheesy looking, to be honest. But, I mean, what are you going to do when the guys do the half motorcycle, half human thing like they did in those horrible commercials? Regardless, we also find out that our mysterious woo-woo, right, circle of magicians, that apparently they're responsible for the scales, right, of good and evil, and of course they've been corrupted and somebody put their foot on the scales to go more towards the darkness, and of course that is Blackheart, a demon devil type of character. It seems to me that this shows a lot of potential, but it seems like they miss on a lot of things too. Like, everything's just super quick.
Well, that's a little judgmental.
It's super fast. Like, all the problems are like, they happen, up, easy solution. Yeah, which kind of takes the turmoil out of our character. Because remember, Johnny Blaze in this case doesn't have the thing living inside of him that makes him do crazy stuff, right? He's just a regular Ghost Rider now. So it's, I don't know. I'll give it a few more issues before I'm like, I'm done. Yeah, I want to see some Blackheart at this point. I think it's my big thing. All right, next, Moon Knight. So the Fist of Khonshu gets a little sadistic with some humor. So the clan of vampires, whatever they're calling themselves, Tudor and his whole little organization of vampires would actually be the best term for this. Send a couple people to go take care of Moon Knight. They end up killing Hunterman, right? And of course, him and Moon Knight are buddies now on that kind of weird, like, we can be mean to each other, but nobody better be mean to us kind of attitude. Does that make sense? Veterans, you know what I'm talking about. Army, Marine Corps, right? That's always there, but there's always that thing, right? They kind of have that kind of relationship.
That's because we're born killers.
So Moon Knight's like, all right, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Wraps a chain around one guy, drags him back to the Midnight Mission, right? And to his little house of horrors, and just gives it to him, like, in the worst way. And informs them that, hey, you can't kill an avatar, right? An avatar is nothing more than a representation of something, and they are the avatar of Khonshu. So, of course, Hunter Moon's back. And then, our vampire organization's having, like, its world conference where all the vampires are there. And, of course, Moon Knight crashes the party, and he's like, let's party. Let's party then.
Don't fuck with my BFF.
It's fun. It's interesting. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay on this. I've stayed on all 17 issues up to this point. I'll probably catch this last arc, kind of see where things go, and then I think it's time for me to move on to something else, unless something like crazy, stupid, interesting happens. But it's been a good read. I'll give it that. Next, Shock Shop. I just enjoy this. This is just silly, short story, parts broken up every week. The smart thing about this is yeah, it's 2 stories in a flip style comic book. And of course, they have a hostess of sorts that runs a comic book shop of oddities as well. That's interesting. But what I realized when I was reading this, it doesn't matter when you pick this story up. Like, this isn't one of those things where you got to read issue 1 all the way up to now. You could pick up legitimately this issue number 3 right now, read it, and be like, okay, I get what's going on, and it's interesting, right? Like, there's a point to it, because it's broken up stories, right? So think of back when you used to have the shows that would have like 2 or 3 different little stories to them. Like I think Friday the 13th was one, Tales from the Crypt, of course, obviously one. Things along those lines. You just got the segment of the story that was most important and really resonated with you to keep you focused on it. This takes one long story and just breaks it into those sections, and I think that's what makes this probably stand out more than other horror comic books that I've been reading. I think I'm really enjoying this. I recommend it. However, it's not my pick of the week. We'll talk about that at the end. Last but not least, I got this. So this is an ash can for Gargoyles, which will be releasing, I believe, December, right? First week in December. But man, I feel like I was cheating. So it's a 1 per store, right? Super, super duper rare, right?
If you're gonna be sarcastic, you should really warn people so there's no confusion.
We're taking the CGC or whatever. But here's the interesting thing about this. I'm going to crack this open for you. I'm just showing you. So, technically it's a preview, but check this out. So as you go through the book, right, you got that classic art. I believe it's issue number 1 from the original. I could be wrong about that because I don't remember reading it. But there's no verbiage in it. And it just goes on, right, for a few pages. And I get it. It's a preview. No words in it, so no real story. And that's not to say you can't tell a story with pictures. I already know that, but it is what it is. And then we get this little, it's got a Darkwing Duck preview. And I was like, I vaguely remember that. Okay. And of course it does the same thing. It's just 2 pages, no verbiage, no clarification of what it is going on in it. And this definitely seems like a more updated one because the cell phones are in there. So yeah. And as far as who wrote this, so we got Disney Comics on one side. Disney owns Marvel, so right, that would be a connection. And then of course it's by Dynamite too. And that's just, I don't know if Dynamite has any connections with Marvel or Disney for that matter, which is weird to me. You'd think they would just, I don't know. Businesses are getting weird. Everything's subcategorized. But regardless, so I really don't have an opinion about it. Like, the art's art in it, right? It looks like the cartoon. I vaguely remember. Same thing with Darkwing Duck. I didn't really watch it growing up, so I was already doing other things. So, I don't know. More likely, it doesn't really resonate with me, so I'll probably end up throwing it in an auction or something. So that's it. That's my haul for this week. As you're watching this, I'm checking out Wakanda. I'm at the movie theater checking that out. So I'll be sure to keep no spoilers. I know I get screamed at a lot for that, because all I got to say is I really enjoyed the movie, and people are like, spoilers! So I'm keeping quiet about it until Monday, because I don't like being yelled at. So, besides that, hey, veterans, again, happy Veterans Day. Spend some time with some friends, call up an old buddy, that you haven't talked to in a while. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. And definitely enjoy it. Other than that, I don't have anything else. So I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Go out, kill bad guys, boom, 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 no problem.